Here we go. Okay, sorry. So now, jumping in the Muppet Show theme, but let's just jump right into the show. It is Wednesday. It's May 6th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Kevin Allen from USA Today on location in Tampa.
Right. Kevin's at a secret location that we can't tell you about, but he is in Tampa. I guess that's what we just told you then. But anyway.
Secret
so much for that.
Just don't tell anybody that I'm at the Residence Inn.
So if you're in Tampa, you want to buy someone a beer.
Room 425. No, just kidding.
Or a soda later.
At 3 in the morning.
A soda later. So you're actually, how far away are you from the arena, Kev?
Oh, like a mile and a half, but you can't get there from here.
No, yeah.
They've actually advised me that it's just not a good idea to, walk, and they actually have given me statistics of people who have tried to walk
and died in the attempt.
So
with stats.
They gave me a shuttle ride. I understand what they're saying. It's there's freeways in the way, and it's complicated. So I got a shuttle ride there, and I got a ride back, and tonight I'll get a shuttle ride there, and then I'll have to find a cab.
So then you have to find a cab. All right. Well, you're in that Yerba Buena section, I guess this is called. What's it called?
I got no idea.
Starts with a Y.
Why is it that you know where I'm at and I'm here and I don't?
Well, because I
Ybor City, is that what it's called?
What's it?
Ybor City? Ybor City?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, yeah. No. That is correct. I've seen the sign. So.
Yes, and it's a very hip section of Tampa, believe it or not. Now it's up and coming with the up and comers.
That's because he has installed a GPS in your tablet there, Kevin.
That's right.
So
yes.
That's exactly where you are at all times.
Well, last time you were at my house, I gave you some sort of small drink. You drank some of the Take a Boost, which means Kevin actually tried Drink a Toast while he was here, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that for sure. I think my wife's estimation of you changed dramatically by that drink.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was so.
That can't be a good thing.
I thought it was fine. The fact that you and I like it, I just think speaks highly of
it. It does. So, and you were driving a long way, so I figured this was the best. This is by far the best thing to drink if you're going to drive a long way.
Yeah, I'd like to say I was up for 36 hours after that, but I think I fell asleep this minute that we left your house.
Oh, that's yeah. All right, well, let's begin. Before we get into tonight's game, which obviously we're going to spend most of our day on because Kevin is in Tampa, as we said before, we're going to discuss. Oh, and I always like when my random video game becomes a hockey game.
I started watching it.
I know. It's pretty funny. Skeet sheet. Let me share this over the back. Sorry, excuse me. All right, there we go. Never mind. That's good enough. All right, so let's begin with last night's Calgary game because, man, oh man, what's there stuff to talk about in this game?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
This was just so unlucky for Calgary's part. So happy that it ended the way it did, though, personally. But I think I went back and forth on this. At first, I'm like, oh, it's obviously a goal, and I went back and forth on it until I think they made the right call. Kevin, what are your thoughts? Do you think they made the right call in the ice?
They did make the right call, but here's the issue that I now have with it. Because I understand what they're saying, but now, that goal was probably right. But a lot of other goals that you and me and all the other fans that have gotten used to seeing that one particular angle that we've now been told can be deceptive.
Right. We have been told.
Like, the only angle we can trust now is the looking down on the goal line. So, we've had other goals that we've seen that, the space between, and now all those goals are suspect now. So I get it, and now that I've had it explained to me, it makes sense. The perception would be off. We're not viewing it straight on down. We're looking at it from an odd angle, and that certainly could be the case. And because of that, it was inconclusive. And the fact that the referees said it was no goal, and it happened so fast. Like a couple of my readers have blamed the officials on that. And I said, oh, come on, when you see that on real time, there's just no way. It just happened. Bang bang. So that's the only issue that I have is now I'm starting to wonder about some other goals when we've seen them, and we've seen that angle, and we said, oh, that's clearly in. Well, were they clearly in?
I know.
Well,
okay.
and this is the thing. I thought it was a goal. I thought from the vantage point that I saw it was a goal. But this is the thing. With the league now and with professional sports now, the technology is there to get this call right.
Very
it's been
simple.
there. It's been there in tennis for years with the in and out. And now it's being used in soccer. All they have to do is basically put an edging on the outside of the puck, and if it passes past the red line, it's a goal. So we eliminate all this crap. I mean, I was talking to our mutual friend, Sean Vetter, and he was apoplectic at the fact that was not a goal. I mean, and I thought it was. And, luckily, Goudreau scores that goal with 20 seconds left to go in the third period, and they win that goal in overtime. Otherwise, if that was a goal, that was a killer. That was a stab in the back of the Flames. But now the Flames are still in this series, and we'll see where it goes. But I think the NHL has to address this in the next year or two. The technology is there. It's not something out of the ordinary. And the funny thing is they put these new cameras in the posts to be able to see these types of shots, see these types of disputes, and the cameras were blocked by Frederick Anderson, so that doesn't even work. So you have to go to this improved technology.
No, I think you're right, Mike. I think you are, and it's I think we all think it was a goal, and I think if they had called it a goal on the ice, it would have been inconclusive to say it wasn't a goal, because whatever the call in this situation was on the ice, I think it was going to stand because the replays were so inconclusive. And I look at it now as let's fix this. Let's fix this for next season. It's not that difficult. The goal line technology in soccer works. It works in tennis. It can be done. And FIFA is the slowest moving body when it comes to change. They just admitted last year that the world was round. Okay, so they finally got replay, and it works for them 100% of the time. So this isn't a hard fix. This is an opportunity for the NHL to be proactive instead of reactive and say this is not going to happen again, and we're going to fix it for next season.
Now, let me bring this up, and not meaning to be a contrarian, because you guys may be absolutely right. But is it an easy fix? Like the last I heard, the technology wasn't such that they could make it work. That the way the pucks were, what they were made out of, made it difficult to achieve that. So has something changed that I'm not aware of, or?
I'm with you, Kevin. I've heard the same thing. I talked to, there's a great group of kids and a teacher from Carnegie Mellon who they remember the Pittsburgh Penguins had their Yins cam, they called it, which was basically a Wi-Fi network in the arena where fans could watch replays of the game on their phones in the arena, and they could get various camera angles. And when Yins cam came out, me being the geeky guy I was, I went and I did a story on these guys. I drove out to Pittsburgh and I met with this really lovely Indian woman who specializes with her students. These are her PhD students and master's degree students on technologies with sports, and they pioneered this. First thing they pioneered was a football that could calculate hang time by a punter. It was really accurate, showed the spin of the ball and everything like that. Soccer, it's been recently been released. Actually, there's been a product that's been released about this with a soccer ball that someone showed me, which is amazing. So I asked her about this back then. Now this is a while ago. This is 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and she said she believed the technology was there or would soon be there. But I've heard the same conflicting reports you've heard, Kevin. So I don't know.
Okay, I just looked it up on how the Hawkeye system works, and the soccer ball isn't manipulated at all. It has to do with the computer system and the cameras that are inside the goal itself. It creates triangulation, and a sensor is automatically triggered when the object crosses that line.
Yeah, well, because nothing ever crosses the goal line except for the puck. We all know that. And
no, they can actually set it. They can actually set it to what sets the trigger off. Because soccer players end up in the goal a lot too. So you can actually set the computer to distinguish between the soccer ball and the actual people going into the net.
I think there is some sort of coating or some sort of thing on the outside of the soccer ball, and I would think that there would be something that they could put on the puck on the outside edge that would enable this system to determine whether the puck had crossed the line. I mean, it cannot be that difficult. If the technology is not there, then it probably soon will be there. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, you may be right, and I just may not know. But I guess my thought would be, you know, the NHL has been trying to make strides in this area, you know, pretty dramatically over the last year. They moved into advanced stats. Like, if it was right there and so simple, I would have to believe they would actually do it. You know, why would they submit themselves to these, you know, these kind of dilemmas when they didn't have to? So, but you know, I'm not saying you're not right, because you may be. I simply don't know. But
Yeah.
if that is available, I hope they do it, because you're absolutely right. We want to get these, you know, these calls right. And last night was just, that had to be one of the more frustrating ones that I can remember in a long time, because it looked like it was in the net, and then as time wore on, when the time was going on, I thought, you know, there's a problem here. And unlike a lot of fans, you know, I don't initially think conspiracy. You know, I think, you know, they're trying to get this right. And when it took so long, I thought, oh shoot, there's something, you know. And you know, it was obviously the angle, and you know, when they noticed the overhold.
Yeah. And this, of course, is the famous picture. This is like doesn't this feel like, you know, like the JFK thing in Dallas at this point? This photo,
or like the Loch Ness monster.
Are there many grassy knolls in Calgary?
I know. Here's my theory. Okay, the puck's obviously off the ground, and it's hovering there, being controlled by aliens in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and that is, I agree, that is the Loch Ness monster, because I've seen that monster. And look,
right. This is clearly a head right here. So the puck's off the ground now. At first I was like, oh, of course it's a goal, because it looks like a goal. If it smells like a goal and looks like a goal, it's a goal, right? So, but then when you go into the whole thing of like, okay, I looked at the bottom of the pad, right, the goalie pad, like down here, right, and I thought to myself, that between that and this does not look like enough space for a puck to fit, like in my mind, like just, you know what I mean? That's why I started to go the other way on it. I'm like, well, wait a second, because the bottom of the pad to there, that looks too small for a puck to fit.
See, but the thing I don't understand is that when the referee made the decision, he said that there was not conclusive evidence.
Right.
And if you look at this picture here, the cameras in the goal posts that they've been talking about, that they installed for the playoffs, one is in the left post facing the goal line, the other is in the right post facing the goal line. The one on the right, the one on the right post should be picking this up.
I thought I would get it too. I know.
Yeah, but what if it was in the air, though? See, you know, when it's in the air, that's always the issue. You know, because the perspective is then always off. Like I mean that's a tough one. I'm completely with you guys. So I thought it was a goal, and then when they sort of explained it all, then to me I thought, oh my God, all these things that I thought were goals.
One of the short-term solutions could be too is if they can get not just the slow motion replay, but the XMO, the super slow motion replay that they use in other sports, and they use it sometimes in hockey. If you can get one of those fixed on the goal line as well, it will help, because your normal that play happens so fast. There's only 28 frames of video per second. And when you're going frame by frame there, you can see in the broadcast, it's blurry. If you have an XMO camera on there, the frame rate is 6 times that of a normal camera. So you can really get that micro detail, and you won't get those blurry frames. When they were going frame by frame, like right when the puck got to the line, it would come out of focus, and you wouldn't have that in that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, even the Zapruder film is 36 frames per second.
So here's an angle. So the 40-degree angle, somebody sent me this picture. This is what a puck over the goal line at a 40-degree angle should look like, you know. This is the grassy knoll world now.
We are in our grandmother's basements with tinfoil hats on right now.
Can you imagine what Toe Blake would have said, and if you started talking about 36 frames per minute and goals and
no questions. So here's another one.
That what you just showed, that looks like what we saw.
It does.
Like what we saw from where we are, right? I'm with you. So now here's a straight-on view of what it looks like when it's over the line. So I was showing all these different things, and sorry, I'm trying to get this to look right. It's kind of awkward to do this with my thing. And then this one over here, I think there's one here, top down, placed directly. So this was the theory of what it looked like if you could have looked at it from top down, because it was in the air. So. I mean, at the end of the day, thank God Calgary won this game.
Yes.
I mean, there's two things that really matter to me about this thing. First of all, people just seem to be forgetting and not mentioning what a hell of a save this was by Anderson. Okay, let's throw that out there for a second. For all this no-goal thing, this was a hell of a save. I mean, the quickness to get his leg 12 inches behind the goal line to the goal line in that amount of time that Bennett turns the puck. Oof, that's speed. This is a quick goalie.
We should also talk about the game itself too, and how great the game was actually too.
Yeah, well, one more thing I want to say about this though, because I always say this, but I think it's important you bring it up, because eventually they are going to go to the technology that you two guys are talking about, and we are going to be in better shape to make these calls. But even when that happens, I want to remind everyone where the NFL is now.
Right.
That when you and 5 of your friends are sitting in that living room, and you
point.
are watching the slow-mo, and they're slowing it down, and the two receivers got their toes, inside the line, and they show it 12, 15, 20 times. 3 of you believe you saw one thing, and 3 of you believe you saw another. That we're never going to get it, where it's perfect. Because even when you have advanced, replays and slow motion and slowing it down, my eye doesn't believe what your eye saw.
Right.
I actually talked to a person who works in software programming, and he does some pretty advanced coding and things of this nature. And he said, give it a few years, but he said that Hawkeye system that the English Premier League is using is by far the best right now. But he said within a few years, he said that system will be able to turn on your red light for you.
Well, we used to have that in the NHL too. A guy used to turn it on for us, and they didn't get it right. I miss
goal judges, by the way. I miss the goal judges.
I miss goal judges too. Let me tell you something about soccer, though. The last time I was in England, was several years ago, the Sunday paper had done an exclusive report on the offside rule in soccer, which we all know is not the least bit complicated. And they basically got an expert in ophthalmology, and they got an expert in I believe it was physics, but one of the sciences they have to do with laser. And they set up lasers, and they proved conclusively, according to a panel of experts, that it was impossible, absolutely impossible, based on the linesman and the referee and the ability to call offsides, that you cannot see when the ball has. It's impossible for you to see, when the ball crosses and when it's let go and where the players are positioned. You can't. Your eye can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet that's the rule in soccer, and they proved conclusively that it's
impossible to tell.
And the funny thing about that is, the funny thing about our NHL officials is they get it right most of the time.
Yes, they do.
That's the funny thing. They get it right 95% of the time.
In soccer, they get that rule right most of the time too.
Sure they do.
And and at the the girls soccer league level that I coach at U13, offsides is even worse. It's like it's horrible. Like and I've heard refs that say well, she started off in this offsides position before and everybody has their own interpretation of the whole thing. It's completely random. But I think that no podcast would be complete if we did not show Angry Burke versus Happy Burke. Okay, so there's Angry Burke, there's Happy Burke. I guarantee you, I think this is Angry Burke again. My theory is, with his expression there before he's angry, he knows that he's going to get screwed.
Yep.
There's no question about it. He knows right there, we're going to get screwed.
I'm going to say about Brian Burke's tie what I used to say about Dominic Hasek's stick. I always said Dominic Hockey. That was probably appropriate, actually. Yeah. Dominic Hasek's must not have liked his stick because he got rid of it every chance he could. And I will say that Brian Burke must not like his tie because he removes it at every opportunity.
This has to be a superstition, Kevin, at this point. Don't you think? I mean, with Brian,
he does it at meetings too. Have you ever seen Brian Burke come out of a meeting and have his tie done up the way he had it done before? No, he exits with his tie draped over him, just like we saw there in that picture.
I gotta tell my favorite Brian Burke story real fast, then we'll move on. Okay, so this was funny because last night people were asking Brian Burke about technology and all this, and should this be something that can be fixed with technology. And my favorite Burke story was covering the U.S. Olympic team in their before Sochi, when they had their thing in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. And I had just gotten Google Glasses 3 days before this, specifically for the purpose of I convinced Google to let me bring them to cover this event. I said it would be a cool thing to try. They didn't have, no one had done it yet. So Burke was giving his press conference, and I was in the second row, and I had my Google Glasses on, and I was videotaping Burke. All right. Brian and I, are buddies. I really would call him a friend. He's a good guy. We go to lunch often. So after the press conference, he comes over to me right away, and I'm thinking he's going to ask me, about the Google Glasses because I know Burke's not going to let this go. I'm going to get ripped somehow. And he says, "So, how you doing?" I'm like, "Good." He looks at me again for a second. He's like, "It's good to see you." He says, "What the bleep is on your face?"
Yeah.
That was Burke's comment. I'm like, "You look like a bleeping idiot." So I'm like, "Well, thanks, Brian. Yeah, these are Google Glasses, new technology and all this stuff." He's like,
I like your new haircut.
"It's like bleeping Star Wars or something. What the hell?" And he walked away. And that was it. That was my conversation.
Well, I would say about Brian Burke, if you spend any time when he's in the same area with Ron Wilson, you will think you're back in high school because they were college buddies, and their brand of humor is pretty much what I remember from my years as a sophomore and junior and senior in Wayne Memorial High School. I mean, it's no different. It's just a you're ugly, no, you're uglier, that kind of stuff. That's Berkey.
That's how it goes, right? But he's hilarious. He's just passionate. And yeah, the tie. I agree with you. The tie is something. I think it's got to be a superstition at this point. So, and the hair has gotten crazier over time too. I mean, the hair has taken on another level as well.
It's Donald Trump-esque now.
Yeah, it is Trump-esque. I agree with you there. And he'll be the first to admit that too. So, anyway, the game itself. Gosh, can we say enough about the Calgary goaltending in that game? And I mean, just all over the place. And then, of course, Johnny Hockey looking every bit like Patrick Kane on that shot, by the way. That was a Patrick Kane goal if I've ever seen one.
On the replay act, they showed how much space he had. He had about 2 inches by 3 inches. It was right to the left of Frederik Andersen's head, and he put it in that small space.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the time. I think it was still a 5-on-3 at that point. So he had the luxury to zero in his sights and aim, but it was a fantastic shot. And then the winning goal. I mean, I don't think you can blame Andersen. I mean,
no,
Hoodler was all over him in the crease.
Yeah.
And if you saw after the game, Ryan Getzlaf was really upset at the two officials because an Anaheim player had gotten tripped maybe 15 seconds before the goal, and it looked like it was a blatant trip and should have been called, and didn't get called. And I don't blame him because now I think Calgary, it's still going to be a tough road to hoe, but they have a lot of emotion on their side and they're back in it in a sense. So I mean, if Anaheim goes up 3-0, I think you probably stick a fork in
definitely
Calgary. But now they're alive. Now they have a chance.
Yeah, and what a save by Ramo he made on Getzlaf too, right before that goal. I mean, that blocker save was crazy. I mean, Getzlaf just doesn't miss from when he's alone between the circles like that. I mean, Getzlaf's not going to miss that shot, and Ramo nailed it. So I mean, they're alive, and I do think they got a break with they obviously get the break when Vatanen takes the penalty, and I think they got a break in overtime with the refs too. And I think part of the refs, there was some human nature. The refs really felt bad about what was going on too. You could tell that they weren't happy about the whole inconclusiveness of it because it wasn't as if we could say it was not a goal or wasn't a goal. It just was inconclusive. So it was messed up. But let's go quickly before we get to Tampa. Kevin, to Minnesota and Chicago last night. This is this Wild team running out of track, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I think it's more, the Blackhawks got a little warmed up in that Nashville series, and now, they're just playing the way they did when they won the championship. Like, when the Blackhawks are playing well, it's how do you want to play?
Right.
How do you want to play? Just let us know, and then we'll play that way.
Yeah.
And that's the way they're playing now. You want to play a defensive game? Yeah, we can do that. You want to, get on your horse to saddle up and, we'll play 6-5? Yeah, we'll play like that. Yeah. I mean, they can play any way you want to play. And, you can bang them around, and it just doesn't bother them. Their ability to handle rough play, you don't bother Kane and Taves and, Duncan Keith if you want to play a spirited, rough house game. And, they really can clamp it down now. And, the one thing that this is not a scoop. we all know that Hjalmarsson is an excellent player. But
Yeah.
when I was watching them last night, when he plays with Duncan Keith, I'm not so sure they're not the best defensive pairing in the league together.
Yeah.
Like he is such a incredibly talented player as a one-on-one defender, and everybody knows he's good, but I think he's even better than we think he is.
Yeah.
I
agree with that. That's
it's
a
really
great point.
impressive. I mean,
Yeah.
Weber and Yossi are good, and Girardi, obviously, and McDonough when they play together are good. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. But as I was watching that last night, I was just struck by, when those two are on the ice together, how difficult it is to penetrate and get inside that perimeter there.
Well,
So
I think they both
very
complement each other. They both complement each other more than at least as much as any other defensive pairing in the league. That's the one thing. I mean, Duncan Keith can be Duncan Keith because he plays with Hjalmarsson. I really do believe that plays into it.
Yeah.
And more importantly, last night for Chicago, after how weakly he played in the Nashville series and giving up 3 goals, in succession in Game 1, Corey Crawford was back to being a difference maker. I thought he played, obviously his best game of the playoffs, but I thought he played very well. And you get up 1-0 on Kane's goal, and he shuts the door. I mean, I think Minnesota had some chances, but he was equal to the task. And if they get that kind of goaltending out of Crawford now, they're going to be even tougher to beat.
Yeah, Crawford was very good last night, and the way the Hawks are right now, they just need B plus goaltending. They get above average goaltending, they're fine.
Yeah.
The way they're rolling right now, the way they're playing defensively, the way their big players step up just in big spots. Kane and Taves take it to another level when they have to. And, Hossa and Sharp didn't have great years, but they're there too. Those guys, if you need a big moment, they're going to give you some big moments. And their players, it's just like, they've been down this road so many times, they're battle-tested, and nothing phases them.
Yeah, even a guy like Marcus Kruger is
Sure.
A terrific player, a great role player, and Saad has moved up to the next level. We're talking about the changeover that's going to happen with the Blackhawks in the summer, but I don't think it's going to be quite as dramatic as others do. They've got a lot of depth there, and Teravainen's going to be a first-rate player as well. I think they're going to be fine for years to come.
Yeah, they just give Saad and Shaw and those guys more responsibility, and they're also going to have the opportunity because there'll be some second and third level free agents out there to get a guy like Brad Richards did last summer to take a little less to play 1 or 2 years with Chicago because they have a chance to win a Stanley Cup. So I think Stan Boylan's going to use that ability to do that.
Yeah. And they have Kimmo Timonen who's playing hardly any time at all, but they have him in case. They have all their ground covered. It feels like they're ready to go no matter what shakes down. So let's go right into Tampa and Montreal because we have a lot of people watching the show, of course, because they're very interested in this one. Kevin, what's the mood like down there? Have you gotten any vibe from either team?
Well, I mean, I think what we've now moved away from is the trust situation, which had sort of permeated the air for the longest time, and now we're concentrating back on two things. Can Carey Price step up and give the Montreal Canadiens a chance? Because it's really all on his shoulders, and not that he can win it by himself, but he has to play A+ goaltending, not B+ goaltending, A+ goaltending in order to give Montreal the opportunity. And it's yesterday I wrote in my column, and all that stuff about Price sort of masked the real story here, which is pretty much what Mike and I had talked about pretty much all season, is just their struggles to score goals. And it's not as if they can't ever score goals, because when you look on their 5-on-5 play, they were ranked among the better teams in the league. They work hard and they can get the puck in the net on occasion. When they do that, they have some quickness. But in general, when you have a weakness like they have, it's going to cost you in a playoff series like this. Like the Montreal defense and the Tampa Bay defense are comparable. We can argue about maybe Montreal's a little bit better. They gave up fewer goals and so forth, but they're close. But the Lightning offense is so much better than the Montreal offense that in a series like this it really matters. Unless Carey Price is infinitely better than Bishop. And Bishop's really been an X factor in this since game 6 of the Detroit series. And I'm doing a column on that for tomorrow, and I asked Cooper today at the morning skate about it, and I thought he made a great point. He said the 7-game series against Detroit was the best thing that happened to Ben Bishop. Yeah. And he came in without playoff experience. He got pressure right off the bat. There was a lot of talk about Mrazek, no talk about Bishop. He hadn't played well. He stepped up in 6 and 7, and that's just carried over. He's riding the wave. So, would you take Ben Bishop over Carey Price? Not in a minute. But is he close enough to Carey Price in this series to give Tampa its real important advantage in offense? Yeah, he is. So, they got to play almost a perfect game tonight. Montreal does. It's not like it's impossible for them to beat the Lightning, but 7 times they've tried and 7 times they've failed this.
That's the crazy thing about this.
I mean, Montreal in Game 2, it was a special teams failure because they gave up 4 power play goals. But the thing is, not only are they having trouble, Stamkos finally came alive, but then they have to worry about Stamkos and Tyler Johnson up the middle, but they also have to worry about guys like Kucherov. I mean, Kucherov scored the game winner in double overtime in Game 1. I think he had two goals in Game 2. When the secondary offensive guys for a team are killing you, it makes it that much tougher for you to shut down the primary guys. So, I mean, Montreal, it's a given. They need Carey Price to stand on his head for them to have a chance to win, but they also need to limit the offensive chances of Tampa against Price to prevent him from having to make 45 saves. If they can keep the shots around 35, I think Montreal has a good chance to win this game. But I think Tampa is going to be hyped up, and if they get production from those 2 offensive lines, it's sayonara, Montreal.
Yeah, you just can't survive with trying to win every game 1-0. That's where the Montreal is right now. You might be able to get by a series winning by 1 goal, 2-1, 1-0, but at some point you got to be able to score some goals. I mean, right now it seems like the entire Montreal offense is Pacioretty and Subban. If they can't do anything, there's just, they have nice speed, they have some nice forwards, but there's just an inability to get the puck in the back of the net. And playing goalie in Montreal is pressure enough, but trying to win the game 1-0 every game has got to be a horrible feeling. And if Stamkos has gotten himself right, finally on the scoreboard now, and he gets going alongside all the other guys that are rolling for Tampa, this series could be over quickly.
Oh yeah.
And I really don't think that the tactic that Montreal used against Boston last year is going to work against Tampa. I mean, Montreal, they are preeminent in terms of getting underneath the other team's skin. Gallagher specializes in it. Pacioretty does it. Last year guys like Rene Bourque did it. Weiss does it. I don't think that they can do that with Tampa. I mean, Tampa, they seem to have that sort of distance where they're not going to let these guys get under their skin as much. Maybe it's coaching, maybe it's just more maturity. But I don't think that Montreal can play that game and hope to get into Tampa's kitchen and disrupt them. It's not going to work. It's going to be talent on talent. And honestly, in a talent on talent battle, Montreal versus Tampa, I think Tampa wins every time.
Kevin, did you see Did you see the skates today at all?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So what were your thoughts? Did you get any vibe from them at all?
Well, I mean, I think Montreal knows that its mission is difficult, but I don't think they believe that it's as impossible as we do. I mean, they're pretty. Carey Price gives them a lot of confidence in their ability to do it. And I thought Mike's points about shots are important too. Like, as hard as it is to believe, the Lightning only averaged about 27 shots per game during this playoffs, but that's because the Red Wings did such an effective job of limiting their shots. Like, they just have looked far more dangerous against Montreal than they did against the Red Wings. Montreal, based on the 2 games in the series they had against the Senators, they're giving up 35 shots per game.
Right.
So, that just speaks to what Mike was talking about. They got to limit the shots. But, the one thing I took note of, everybody was in the dressing room talking to the media for the Lightning. Like,
right.
They seemed very relaxed. they're ready to go. Cooper is, nobody's talking as if they've got this one. Everybody's saying the right things about, you haven't won anything when you won 2 games, la-di-da, la-di-da. But you can just tell by the body language that, they feel pretty good about where they're at. And I think it has to do not so much with the lead, but how they're playing. Like, even though they won by a 2-1 score in game 1, like, I think they felt like they're playing the way they want to play in that game. And they feel like they've kind of got it all together. I think the victory over the Red Wings really sort of propelled them and gave them a lot of confidence, because the Red Wings played as well as they can play and still lost. So
that's crazy. And yeah, I think that, and I completely agree. And they feel it. It seems as if this team all year never was healthy, never got into the groove, and now suddenly is at the perfect time. They have that destiny type feel to them right now. That's hard to turn away from. They really do. And I guess the other team of destiny I want to talk about real fast that I feel is the Capitals. It's another team that I feel like has that kind of vibe going on right now. And Mike,
I don't think I think they're a solid team. I think second half of the season they have played as good as any team in the league. The Holtby is not a young goaltender anymore. He's got experience and he's playing fantastic hockey. Their defense is, the additions of Niskanen and Orpik cannot be diminished. It's really helped them. I think that they're on par with the Rangers. This is a nip and tuck series. This is going 7 games. They're giving the Rangers everything that they can handle. The loss of Zuccarello has hurt the depth of the Rangers, as we've all said and Russ said yesterday. They just, I think tonight, even if they win at home and go up 3-1, I think this series is still going to go the distance, because the Rangers, they have the ability to come back. I think right now what the Caps are doing effectively is they're keeping the Rangers out of the scoring zone in the middle, in the offensive zone. They're plugging the front of the net. They're blocking shots. Holtby is very calm in the goal. For the Rangers to win, they have to get shots from the scoring areas. They have to have a guy like Nash and a guy like Kreider crash the net and go at Holtby and bury the puck. If they don't do that, then it's very likely the Caps could win Game 4. But I don't count the Rangers out, even if they do win tonight.
Yeah, the Capitals.
Go ahead, Dan.
The Capitals are doing the same. I from watching obviously the Islander series so intently, they're doing the same thing to the Rangers that they did to the Islanders. Keeping them outside of the dirty area, keeping them away from Holtby, keeping them out of the crease, making sure Holtby's seeing everything, and also being as physical as possible against some of the Rangers' smaller forwards, trying to neutralize their speed a little bit, and it's working. It's absolutely working. And we talked about how the Canadians have had goal-scoring problems. The Rangers can't get by scoring 1-2 goals a game. And now Lundqvist is in a similar spot where he almost has to be perfect on a night. I know the Rangers beat the Penguins in 5, but every one of those games was a coin toss game. They haven't had any easy games where they could breathe a little bit right now. And in order for them to, I still think this series is going to. I would not be surprised if the Rangers won tonight. I still think it's going 6 or 7 games, most likely 7. But the Rangers are in for a dogfight here, and we talked about this before the series started. That if the Capitals got on a run here, they could definitely be not so much a dark horse, but this is a team to watch that could make a run to the finals, and it looks like it right now.
You think they have a shot at the finals, Kev? What do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure they do. But I think I agree with Mike. This to me doesn't feel like a team of destiny as much as this is a coin flip series.
Right.
And even if they win it in 5 games, if you replayed it and starting 3 days later, we'd probably get a different result. Like it seems to me, it's almost like 2 evenly matched teams. And we're watching Chicago and Tampa Bay look like they've got it all figured out. They know what they're doing. And I'm watching this series thinking it's just a tug of war. And it just feels like every game is going to be 1 goal, and who knows? Like, I say every year when people argue about, Game 3 is the most important. To me, it's always been Game 4 because the difference between 3-1 and 2-2 is so huge. The biggest game of the series is always 4, and that'll tell us something. But unless Washington wins at 5 or 6 or 7-1 or something, like, it's going to feel to me that it's still a pick'em series. It's actually, I think it's been good hockey. I've enjoyed what little I've seen of it, but I've stopped in and watched it, and it just feels like both both teams, know what has to be done, and they're, playing conservatively and not allowing a lot of great scoring chances. And the advantage that Washington has is it has the one great offensive player, in the series. They've got Ovechkin. That seems to be an advantage.
That's it. That's the difference.
And the ironic thing is that Washington is more experienced in their bottom two lines than the Rangers are. I mean, the Rangers are using, Jesper Fast, and they're using, Shepard. Everybody's moved up with Zuccarello getting injured. But if you look at the Caps, they've got Brouwer, they've got Brooks Light, they got Chimera. They have size and they have experience in their bottom six, and those
very effective, very effective.
And a guy like Tom Wilson is running around, using his size, hitting people, and he's a big kid, and he hurts when he hits. So,
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's true.
And Brouwer really is very underrated as to what he brings to the table.
Yeah, Jay Beagle, that was the other one.
And Beagle too, yeah. I mean, to me, why I say Destiny is just having watched so many Caps teams over the years in the playoffs, I never got the sense of one as confident as this one. Perhaps there's something of there's a certain cockiness to them, and even though they're barely winning, these games are tight. I think it comes down to the fact that this is the best system this team's played under in a long time, and I give that to Trotz for sure. I think that this is the best goalie they've had in a long time, which is enormously important. Ovechkin's playing well. They've got this, they've got the new Russian Kuznetsov, thanks, sorry, who is absolutely gives them another level, another element, because that was the thing before they never had. You could shut down Ovechkin and Backstrom. Kuznetsov is also a star, is another star. They have another star on their team.
I mean, they have a reason to be extremely confident, but I don't think that they're unbeatable. I mean, we're talking the Rangers here, and even though the Rangers, even though what we said yesterday, where St. Louis is showing his age, and they're without Zuccarello, and Nash has only scored one goal in the playoffs. They dealt with Nash not scoring in the playoffs last year, and they still got to the final. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they get by Washington. Tonight's an important game.
But this Rangers team has depended a lot more on Nash than last year's Rangers team. When Nash doesn't play well, this team does sag. You can see it. I mean, and Nash is not playing well. And Nash is really, he's got to be like the most moodiest hockey player in the NHL. You get that impression, like, it's just like, here's a guy who's at times is so amazing, and then it doesn't take a lot to send him on the other track. And it seems like it takes a lot to bring him back. And I think I don't know if he.
It's frustrating. I don't know what it is. He has so much talent. He just.
We've seen it. Kevin, what are your thoughts on Rick Nash at this point?
Well, Rick Nash. I remember going to the World Championships in Vienna in 2005 and seeing him there during the lost NHL season, and thinking that he was going to come back and set the world on fire. Like, he was the best player there. And it's never really materialized, and it's just one of those guys that I don't think is ever going to live up to his abilities. Like, he has the ability to be like Ovechkin.
Yeah.
He's the Canadian Ovechkin, but he just has never been able to do it on a consistent basis, and there's never any reason. I mean, oftentimes Cooper even said today about he was talking about Kucherov, and some guys, when they get to where Kucherov was last season when he was a healthy scratch in the playoffs, they go either way. Some of them figured out and end up being a star like he is now, or they don't go anywhere. Well, some guys with Nash's ability, figure it out and they become Ovechkin, and then some other guys just become, a guy like him that seems to be in and out. Like, he's hot. He's like a home run hitter in baseball that goes, 2 months where he hits, 25 home runs, and then, over the final 2 months he hits 6. Or 4, and so it's got to be frustrating because he's, when he's playing well, it just makes the Rangers so much more dangerous. Like, they don't really have that flag carrier scorer without him, and
they have a lot of nice 15 to 25 goal scores.
Yeah, he's a guy that you should be able to fill the net. But I do believe what you said about the confidence of the Capitals, that it is higher, and the analogy I would use for people who kind of know about the military is, sometimes when you're part of a group where, the trust in the captain If you're heading off and you're going overseas, and if you don't trust the captain, you're always a little bit easy. But when you have this captain who's in charge, and in this case it's Trotz, you feel like, okay, he's not going to lead you astray, that he's going to have you ready. And I think that's the art with Trotz. Like, that's the difference. Like, I don't think they ever had the trust, in their coach that he was going to have all the answers. I think they believe Trotz has all the answers. That he is going to be able to lead them in such a way that he will give them their best opportunity to be successful. And that goes a long way. And what's fascinating about that is that Trotz has never won.
I know.
But everybody knows that he's had teams that are better than they should be.
He never had the horses he has now, though, either.
No, and he didn't. He didn't have the horses. So, I would agree that this is a pretty confident group. And I've mentioned before, what Trotz had said to me at the beginning of the year, that he didn't want to change them defensively. He wanted to get them used to playing close games. That they were never confident enough to play in close games, and now they are.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I have too much respect for Rick Nash to call him the Alex Rodriguez of hockey.
That's what I was thinking of too.
But that's where it's going so far. I mean, Alex Rodriguez, is a Hall of Famer. Not talking about the steroids thing, but just his statistics. But when it came to the postseason, at least in his Yankees career, he's never done a thing. And then finally in 2009, he did hit some home runs and did come up in the clutch. And maybe at one point, Nash will finally come up big when it counts in the postseason. But so far, he did nothing in 4 games with Columbus. He did relatively nothing in the run last year, and so far he has 1 goal this year. So right now, you'd have to say he's mimicking A-Rod.
And he can disappear like no one else can disappear. I mean, he can really disappear from the game. He can be by far the most drastically, distinctively wide-ranging player that you've ever watched play. Like there were Stanley Cup Finals games where I was sitting next to Kevin last year and we were talking about this in the press box about where Rick Nash would literally, did he play last period kind of thing? Was Rick Nash? Yeah, he had to have played, and then you'd watch him and he would take a shift. He would go out, he would skate and do a couple circles and then climb back onto the bench without even touching the puck, or touching a player. Weird shifts like that from him that just, completely out of the norm. I'm convinced that if you check him, I'm convinced that all of his successes, the major successes he's had besides this regular season, which definitely was impressive, have come when he's played in like international play or all-star games or situations where he's playing against defensive players who aren't necessarily defense-first players. They're more offense-first players. They're more, they're not defensive defensemen. They're not, checking forwards. You see in the international play, the players that go to teams tend to be more offensive. They might have a couple good defensive defenders, but he's had more success, it feels like. And then when you throw somebody like Orpik out there, Orpik just knows how to frustrate him to the point where, Rick Nash starts being his own worst enemy, it feels like. It goes from the point where he's, a great player to just completely frustrated. Even last night saying, something like, I need more puck luck out there, that kind of thing. That's not what a goal scorer says.
No, go to the net. He doesn't drive the net when he's not going right. He's nowhere near.
Right, he doesn't drive the net. He plays perimeter game. I know, it's kind of crazy. It really is.
Afterwards, if you want, you can make your own luck by going to the net. Yeah. And it was one game. I forget which game it was, but he set a great screen on a goal. I forget which game that was, but yeah. I was like, okay, do that more. Even if you're not scoring, right. You're a huge body. You can really be a distraction in front of the net.
Yeah,
it was said last year that the reason why he didn't go to the net as much is because he had concussion issues a few years ago, and since then he really has shied away from going to the front of the net. And somebody with a big body presence like Nash, I mean, if that's the reason why, I can understand it. But when it comes down to it, they need somebody like him to go to the front of the net.
Okay, Sidney Crosby goes to the net, and how many concussions has he had?
Right. Speaking of Crosby, this picture comes to us today from Sweden. This is Team Canada preparing for their game against Sweden, and some Swedish guy over there, Hockey Swedes, on Tumblr, snapped a picture of them eating burgers and drinking beer at an outdoor cafe. Sweden preparing for their game against Team Sweden. And what's pretty funny about this photo is a couple things that are noteworthy here. First off, this is over down here. You have Giroux and Crosby next to each other, which has been a common theme, which makes Philadelphia Flyers fans insane. But yeah, there's a bunch of these, and I'm also impressed by the fact that they, these hockey players bring sweaters with them, when they go out. Like, look at this, draped over the backs of their chairs here, some fine sweaters. Impressive. I just want to say that, there's something to that. They don't just go out, in their short sleeve shirts. And this, I guess, would be Brent Burns right in front there.
Yep.
And what is he reading? That's the other thing that's really funny about this. Like, it looks like he's reading an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange?
He's reading a book. He's reading a book on snakes.
This is a really weird photo.
He's reading Joe Thornton's no movement clause contract.
Yeah, something like that, right? I know. So some of these pictures are, just, I don't know. It was pretty funny. Obviously, this is just these guys having fun over there. It's not a big. It's a fun tournament for them to play in, but the people have had a lot of fun with Crosby and Giroux. And I've said this before. I mean, they are represented by the same agent, I believe. I'm not sure about that. I think they are. And I know, but I do know if I'm talking to Giroux that he's a big fan of Crosby's, even though this whole thing goes on between the Flyers and Penguins every year. That they are, and they definitely are mutually respectful of each other. And the whole thing about Crosby keeping Giroux off Team Canada was completely bogus. So.
Wow. That's ridiculous.
Wasn't that ridiculous? But that was one that was a myth.
Yeah.
It was out there. But it was absolutely the case that everybody was, making this big deal about it. And it's just not the case. These guys respect and like each other a lot, played together in a lot of different situations, and they're playing together there again now. So it's a great tournament so far, Kevin. I mean, it's hard to follow in the playoffs, but it's been a really good tournament.
Yeah, I've talked to Team USA. Usually I talk to them more, but for some reason, the way my travel has worked out, I haven't been able to follow it. I usually try to cover it by phone It's because I really do enjoy it. But the U.S. team has been better than anyone expected, really because Seth Jones and Torrey Krug and Justin Falk have been terrific on defense, and they're a real good skating team. The younger players, they're using some college players, obviously, Jimmy Vesey, Dylan Larkin, Jack Eichel, and all those guys can skate, and they've been opportunistic. They've outscored the opposition 11-4. They've already beaten Finland and Russia. Like, they have a good shot. They're starting out 3-0.
They handled Finland pretty easily.
Yeah, they have a good shot of winning their pool, and if you win your pool over there, it really is an easy path to at least compete for a medal. And America has not traditionally done very well over there. They did get a bronze in 2013, and I think this team is better than the 2013 team. Yeah. And what's remarkable is their goaltending is Jack Campbell and Connor Hellebuck. Who've played a grand total of one game in the NHL.
Right.
And they've played well. They have a .942 collective save percentage.
Wow.
And they're doing really well. I talked to Torrey Krug like 2 days ago, and he just said, this defense is pretty remarkable. Like, Seth Jones is just playing just super, and they're pretty happy. And this Mike Riley, who's going to be a Columbus Blue Jackets player, he's from the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
I actually have a question about him when you guys are done about Mike Riley.
He's actually playing in their top four right now, so he's a college player. And Larkin, I think, might be their number 2 center. But I think the most remarkable thing is the leader of this team is Matt Hendricks. And I quoted Richards in my story today saying, this team plays like Hendricks plays, which is, throwing everything he's got at him, blocking shots, just a high energy deal. And they named him the captain thinking, the guys would play the way he plays, and they are. And Krug said, he's taken some bad penalties, but they like him so much, like the rallying cry is, we got to kill this off for Matt. That wouldn't have been a penalty in the NHL, and he's just playing, the way he normally plays, so we got to kill it off. And they've been perfect on the penalty kill, even though he's taken, a couple penalties. So I love those kind of stories when, a role player like Hendricks suddenly becomes like a leader of this American team. And I always like to point out, Mike Eruzione was a third liner, maybe a fourth liner, depending on how you looked at it, and he was the captain of the team. And sometimes those guys become important. So, who knows? If they could get another medal after getting one at 213, maybe they've turned the corner in these international competitions because, it's not like they've got, Kane and Parisi and Pacioretty and, they're competing with Brock Nelson and, some lesser-known guys, to be sure.
Oh, it's awesome.
And no Corey Schneider in goal.
Right. I have a question on Riley. I been told by a few people that he might be using the loophole. Has anybody heard about that?
Yeah. No, that's been out there for a while. I mean, he's one of these guys who may go to August 15th. He's going to declare that he's turning pro and may wait till August 15th and do a Justin Schultz and sign someplace else. He's from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been speculation that he wants to go to play for the Wild, and then because anywhere he goes, he's going to be signed to an entry-level deal. So it's very possible that he, I mean, Columbus needs help on the blue line, but maybe he just doesn't want to go to Columbus.
I'd be really surprised because part of when I talked about Columbus last year about the James Wisniewski trade, part of what they told me was because of this kid that they felt comfortable making that trade. I think they're going to find a way to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple other players out there like that, and like I said yesterday, Evan Hayes and sign somebody for just a pro contract. It's a risk worth taking.
Right. All right. Very good. Well, we got to get going, but this is a great stuff. Thank you so much, Kevin, for jumping on. I know how crazy you are down there. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll do it tomorrow too. Same deal. Back-to-back games in the playoffs.
How about that? Back-to-back. I know 33 hours from now, the Canadians could have this series tied up.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Old-time hockey.
Yeah.
Back-to-back games, old-time hockey.
Or they could be completely eliminated. Right.
Yeah, or they could be headed back to La Belle Provence with their tail between their legs.
We'll see. All right, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey talk. To you then.